All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I am Jennifer Fry, pronoun she and her. I'm the Director of Enrollment Services here. I'm your moderator for the evening. So to go over a little bit about how this will run tonight is please feel free to engage with asking questions to the Q&A part. We will take those questions and we will handle those at the end of the presentation. We will answer those at that time. You can also, along the way, if there's a slide that has particular information that you want to take note of or in the chat, please take a screenshot of that you're welcome to do that. We will also put in some pertinent websites and additional information in the chat, so please feel free to look at that part. You can also, this will be recorded, and so next week you will be able to see the recordings on our visit page, which is right where you also registered for these sessions. So we welcome you to revisit those recordings whenever you would like to get those additional questions. So we are happy to have you here. Please go ahead and engage with us as much as you would like. Have those questions ready for us in the Q&A. This is your opportunity to get those answers that you may be looking for, and that's what we're here to do, is to help you as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn them over to our presenters this evening, starting with Ms. Shefali Shah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. So like Jennifer mentioned, we're going to go through some of our next steps for those students who have already been admitted. So we are going to go through quite a bit of information, but everything that you see today is going to be able to be seen again on our websites. You can see on the corner of our slide here on the bottom right, we do have a website for this particular page and the next steps that you have. So I'm just going to get started by going over some of these items that you need to do in order to be ready to start as a Buckeye. So the first step you want to follow, and if you haven't done this yet, this is something that is incredibly important, is activating your Ohio State username, Buckeye Mail, and Buckeye Pass. So your username is the thing that you will use to log in addition to your password, to all of our different Ohio State applications. Your Buckeye Mail is your email account for Ohio State. So especially once you've paid that acceptance fee, this is where all of our communications will go to you. It will no longer go to your personal email. So it's very important that you activate that so that you actually get those messages. And then Buckeye Pass is our two-factor authentication system. So just a little bit of extra security when you're logging into those Ohio State systems. So again, make sure you do this as soon as possible. If you haven't already, that's something that I recommend that you do today. Next step would be accepting admission. So you've been admitted, but in order to actually secure your spot at Ohio State Mansfield, you do have to pay your acceptance fee, which is $100. It is non-refundable. It is essentially your deposit to say, yes, this is where I am attending school in the fall. So when you do that, you're going to log into your Buckeye link or your applicant center, and you will see an accept/decline link that you will click. It will say, do you want to accept or decline your admission? And then it will prompt you to pay that fee if you choose to accept. So that is something that you do have to pay in order to achieve some of these next steps that we're going to talk about. Next would be completing or updating your FAFSA. We know that there's been a lot of updates, a lot of delays with the FAFSA this year. If you haven't completed it yet, it is not too late. Go in as soon as possible to get that done. As soon as you do the FAFSA, make sure you enter Ohio State as one of the schools receiving the information. We are hoping to have those financial aid packages out to you soon, but again, as you know, there have been a lot of delays in that arena. Next up is going to be your official test scores and transcripts. So for those of you who may have already paid your acceptance fee, if you've taken a look at your Buckeye link, which we'll talk about in just a couple minutes here, you may see a request to send in your final high school transcript. You are going to send that in after you've graduated because we're going to want to see that graduation date on there. In addition, if you're taking any CCP courses this semester, we also want to make sure you've finished your courses before you send that transcript. Make sure they're posted on your account for whatever institution you're taking those classes from, and then send it after that semester is over. If it is still in progress, it's not going to be considered complete and you'll have to resend them again later. AP scores must be sent directly from College Board. Same if you are submitting for any reason. ACT or SAT scores also must be official. Final high school transcripts and CCP transcripts should be from the school, so directly from your high school and directly from whichever college or university that you're taking those classes with. In addition, you are required to take placement tests for before you attend the orientation day, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the required placement tests for most students will be a math and English placement test. You will see those again on your Buckeye link, but that is something you do need to do before you attend your orientation day. If you indicated that you would like to live on campus when you were applying, or if that's something that you want to figure out now, you are going to have that Buckeye mail for the housing contract sent, or that email sent to your Buckeye mail, excuse me, after you've paid your acceptance fee. So if you haven't paid yet, but you are interested in housing and you're wondering why you haven't received that, it's not going to come through until you've paid that $100 acceptance fee we just talked about. When you do fill out the contract, you will have an additional $350 deposit. That is only partially refundable if you choose to live off campus or commute after you've paid that deposit. Buckeye Link is something we're going to be talking about very soon, but there's going to be a to-do list on that website where you can complete all of the things you need to do before you start classes in the fall. The items will vary by student. We'll give you a couple of examples in just a second here about what those might look like, but they aren't going to be the same for everyone. So please make sure that you are getting those done. And then finally, registering for orientation, also in Buckeye Link. So orientation is mandatory for all incoming first-year students. You should have received, if you paid your acceptance fee, an email about orientation. But again, it'll also be on your Buckeye link, so you can go through there to register for the day. And then we're going to talk about a couple other steps that we're going to want you to do after you've registered in Buckeye link. So I'm going to pass it on to Jean. She is going to talk about the lovely Buckeye link that I've mentioned so many times already. So Jean, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Shefali. Just to let you know, I'm Jean Mariocourt. I am one of the academic advisors at Ohio State, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here this evening. Thanks so much for joining us. This page here shows Buckeye Link. It shows an example of what you would see when you go into Buckeye Link. And on the right-hand side, there's a lot of different boxes. You will see the to-do list right there. On there, you're going to see a lot of important items to do. Some of them will be repeated through the Carmen Shell that I'll talk about in a moment, but it will talk about how you take your English placement test, that you need to submit your final high school transcripts, if you need to take the math placement test, and then it talks about orientation. So really your first step in orientation, to let you know, is a process. It's not a day, it's partly a day, but it's an entire process that you go through over the summer to be able to be ready to start classes in the fall. So when you register for your orientation day, down on the bottom left, you'll see orientation information. And that's what you want to click to be able to, once your acceptance fee paid, to be able to know how you go about registering for orientation. Okay, and then there's also the Carmen orientation course under your to-do list that shows that you have to do that as well. Okay, so what we've done is put some great information ahead of time into the Carmen course so that you are able to be ready to go for autumn semester. And you'll always be going to Buckeye Link. It's used for so many different reasons, whether it be financial aid, your statement of account, to be able to even look up your grades after your advising report once you've completed a semester. It's a really important tool that you're going to use probably pretty much daily. And now what I'd like to do is I want to show you a couple of websites that are going to be really useful for you. I'm going to share my screen. And so this first page here is the orientation webpage. And what you'll see is just some general information. It will refer you to the What's Next page that Shefali just spoke about. And what I want to do is talk about each of the different areas. So first of all is orientation day information. Here are the dates for orientation if you don't know them already. June 13th, 18th, 27th. July 11th, 19th, and August the 2nd. So you will want to pick one of those days and go to that one link I showed you on the bottom left of Buckeye Link to be able to choose your time frame. The day itself starts at 9 o'clock. You want to come a little bit early just to register. And then have a bunch of different information sessions for you, financial aid, navigating the transition to college. You'll also get to meet with your academic advisor, and you'll get to meet with advising in 2 different ways. One in a general session to be able to understand more about the general education program and all the important advising information you're going to need, as well as then specific curriculum information for your program, depending upon what your major is going to be. And it will last until about 2 o'clock. So plan on spending the morning and afternoon or early afternoon with us, and lunch is provided. So know that you'll have that opportunity as well. And then, kind of as I said, it's a 5-step process that culminates in meeting with your academic advisor. So this is all the things you need to do prior to actually having your schedule, because we want to make sure that you're ready and prepared to be able to make your schedule. So the first thing, again, registering for orientation. That's going to be key to start the orientation process. And then what you're going to want to do is to go to Carmen. Carmen Canvas, or what we call Carmen, is our online learning management system. You may have had online courses through your high school or through if you've taken CCP credits or something like that, but we use Carmen Canvas. Others might use Blackboard or something like that, but it is where you will go again daily to be able to note your assignments, to be able to get information from faculty who are going to be teaching the classes. If you have completely online classes, that's where everything will be listed. So I'm going to go over Carmen in just a minute, but I'm going to skip this step and then talk with you about transcripts and test scores, because it's really, really important for me to tell you that in order to be prepared to register, we need to make sure that we know what courses you have taken and how they transfer into the university. So having your scores, having your transcripts from colleges and universities, if you've attended any of them, sent to Ohio State is vital. And to let you know, especially for CCP students, you may have taken courses in your high school that were CCP courses. Submitting your high school transcript is not enough. You need to make sure that you submit the transcript from the college or colleges that actually issued the credit. So you might have taken something through North Central, even though it might have been in your high school. You need to contact North Central and have them submit transcripts to us. The same thing with the placement test. Some students don't think they need a placement test, but you really do, because everybody's math can be different in high school. And so we want to make sure that you're placed into the correct math that you're starting in, because we don't want you to be overwhelmed and take on too much and not know exactly where, not know that you should have kind of maybe taken a test early, or excuse me, a step down from your math, because it's a gradual process to learn all of that, and everything builds on something else. So the 3 you can take are the math placement test, the English placement survey, and the foreign language placement test. If you've taken 2 years of a foreign language in high school of the same foreign language, then you're asked to take the foreign language placement test to determine where you would place. So these are vital to being able to register for classes. After you do that, go through the Carmen course, and the placement testing is listed in Carmen as well. You're going to attend an in-person orientation day. Pardon me. We're really looking forward to having everybody here. We're just wrapping up with finals right now, and we're gearing up for orientation starting in June. So we'll be glad to have you there. So what I want to do now is just to show you a little bit about Carmen. So the first thing is that, let's see here. Here you go. When you go to carmen.osu.edu, this is the web page you're going to come to, and then you're going to click right here. When you click there, you're going to log in with your username and your password. And then you will come to a page looks like this. I have more Carmen courses than you probably do right now, but you're going to want to click on Mansfield New Student Orientation. And when you click on that, you're going to come to this page here. And I'm going to do the student view so that you can see a little bit more about what you're going to do in here. This will give you, if you look here, overall, an introduction. It's going to talk about helpful information here. And then here are the different modules that you want to go through as you are preparing for the orientation day. The first thing is the pre-orientation and getting started. So that's, again, reminders of setting up your Buckeye Mail and Buckeye Pass, submitting your transfer credit, and completing your placement testing. All of that is going to give you, or all of these are going to give you much more information about, let's just say, because I've already talked about it, submitting transfer credit. It's going to talk with you about how to do that. So you have it there. Okay. And then as you go through each module, the pre-orientation, these are to-do list items. If you have questions about them, make sure that you have FAFSA, I never say that word correctly, and what FERPA is as well. That's a Privacy Rights Act. There are a couple of really important to-do list items that if you don't do them, they're going to cost you more money. So one of them is student health insurance. Every student is required to have health insurance. And if you have it through independently through yourself, through family members, then that's fine, but you have to verify with the university that you have it. So if you don't have health insurance, you will get billed for it. But if you do, and you don't submit the verification, you'll be billed for it as well. And it's about $1,700. So it's a really big, important item that you want to make sure that you take care of. The other one is selective service. You want to make sure if you're a male over 18 that you have submitted your your selective service number and that is on file. If not, you'll pay out-of-state tuition. And out-of-state tuition is about $12,000 a semester. So we don't want to see that happen either. So advisors are really, we really stress those two things that will cost you money. We don't want that to happen. So it also talk about student employment and housing and food on campus. And then the actual aspect of registering for orientation. You've registered for the day, but this is going to be helpful for you to understand more about the process. And then what happens is after the orientation day, during that day, advisors will actually send you an email. So when you go to orientation, and during that day, your academic advisor is going to send you an email to your Buckeye Mail. That's why it's so critical that you make sure that you're checking your Buckeye Mail regularly. And that email will be sent to you. You'll be able to then come through that day, and the email will give you the information on how to schedule an appointment with your academic advisor for a different day. We spend an hour individually with each student because everyone is different, and we want to make sure we address your questions, your concerns, your issues, and then we're able to help you to get you registered for your classes. And that's why making sure placement tests are completed, making sure that transfer credit is on file already, because we're not able to register you. We can't, let's just say, for instance, you took college algebra and you took trigonometry and you took those as CCP courses. Well, then your next course would be calculus, but we're not able to register you for calculus unless you test into it or you have those transfer credits on file. And for engineering majors, it doesn't matter what transfer credits you have on file, you still need to take the math placement test. That's a College of Engineering rule. So even though you might have even taken calculus in high school, you still need to be able to take the placement tests as we go through. Okay. And so we will schedule a Zoom appointment with you. You'll be able to, we encourage you to ask lots of questions. We'll give you as much information as possible on the orientation day so that you're as ready as possible to schedule for classes. And then after that, you'll find in the Carmen Shell, you'll find a lot of great information, information about, sometimes students will ask us about technology requirements for different majors, looking at textbooks and where do I get my books, what kind of support services are available. Those will all be available to you through the Carmen Shell. And you get registered for the Carmen Shell once you've paid your acceptance fee. Usually within a day or two at the most, you will be able to log into Carmen and see that you have been assigned this module. So there's a lot of great information here, and that's what we want to make sure that we're getting you is the information that you need. Okay. And then, like I said before, your last step is to be able to schedule an appointment with your academic advisor. And if you have any questions at all throughout the process, that academic advisor is the person that you're going to want to be your go-to person. So once you come to orientation day, you're going to get your schedule after that, and then contact your academic advisor for any questions that you have. And we're all here to be able to assist you, whether it be the admission staff or advising or any of our support services. That's what we're here to do. So here is contact information. If you have any questions, one of the phone number is right there, and then Mansfield Ask a Buckeye at osu.edu would be the email that you want to use to be able to ask questions. And I think that is the general overview of orientation and getting started. We would love to know if there are any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Jean and Shafali. Looking at questions here that we got in the Q&A. First one is, what if I changed my major? What do I need to do to change it in the system?
Sure, I can answer that one if that's okay. If you want to change your major, a couple of things. First, make sure you want to change your major. If you're just undecided and you're not sure, come to orientation, talk with an advisor, and that person, when they're registering for classes, will help you get ready for it depending upon where you're at. There are lots of general education courses that students need to take, so you don't absolutely have to have a major when you start, and students do change majors. But if you decided you definitely want to, then you want to call the number, the admissions office, or email Mansfield Ask a Buckeye at osu.edu to be able to change your major, and then to be able to make sure that you're scheduled for that as you go through. If it's after orientation, then contact your academic advisor directly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jean. Continue to place those questions in the Q&A, and we are handling these now. Can I take both math and English placement tests online?
I can answer that one too. And the answer is yes. The English placement survey is actually located within, you'll get to the link within the Carmen Shell. So there's a link for the English placement survey. The math placement survey is also online, and as is the foreign language placement test too. And they are located, the math test, you can go to the to-do list in Buckeye Link and click on the math test, or there is a link provided as well in the Carmen course. Do take the math placement test especially seriously, because that you will not be able to get into a math course higher than what you test into without a lot of processes and tedious work on your part. So make sure that you, even though you might have transfer credit, make sure that you're doing the best job possible on the math placement test.
All right, next question. Can I bring guests with me to orientation?
Yes, you absolutely can. So when you are registering for orientation day on your Buckeye link, it will allow you to mark how many guests you'd like to bring. You can bring up to 2 in that form at least. And then when you go through the Carmen course and you get to the module that actually says register for orientation, there is an information form that you will fill out in addition to already having filled out the one on Buckeye Link, because this will give us a little more info. Since we're providing lunch, it asks about dietary restrictions. It'll ask about information about your guests as well. If you do need to bring more than 2 guests, just please make sure you contact us using that information that's on the screen. That way we know in advance. Again, make sure we know their name, dietary restrictions, their relation to you, just so we're aware of who you're bringing and how we can accommodate for them. So yes, in short, you are able to bring guests with you.
All right, thank you. And when should I submit my transcripts? And I'm going to add to this question that somebody's asking is, what about AP scores that come in late in the summer? And I want to come to an earlier orientation.
I can take that one. What I would recommend is if you are currently in a college class, wait until the end of the semester to be able to submit your transcripts so that you're not paying twice to be able to have them sent. Usually when you go onto the school's website and it says to be able to access transcripts or to have your transcripts sent, it will say, when do you want them sent? Sent immediately, sent after grades have been posted for a certain term. And that's what you would want to check, is to say after grades have been posted for the spring semester. The other aspect with that as well is make sure that you send them from every school, because you might have taken some CCP courses from one school and some from another. So every transcript is needed. With regard to AP credit, that's always an interesting one, because we know that those scores are not going to come in until the actual middle of July is usually when those come in. So that plays a part in scheduling. What you want to do is make sure that you have requested your AP scores to be submitted to Ohio State prior to then. And then work with your advisor to be able to, and that's why the math placement test is important as well, because if you have a math placement score that's as high as what you took, then we'd be able to schedule you for that class or the next class, whatever it is. And then you can be able to be scheduled. If not, we'll schedule you for what your math placement test says. And then once that credit comes in, it supersedes whatever the math placement showed. So that's usually where AP credit comes into play most. If it's, for instance, if you took government or if you took, trying to think of English, we'll just try to avoid those classes or those sections of GE requirements, so that when your credit comes in, we know that it can be accounted for or it won't be accounted for. And then the next semester we can be able to edit that. But it's just going to be a conversation between you and your advisor. So it's okay to come to an orientation prior to your AP credit being posted. But we need to just know what you've taken, and you and your advisor can have a conversation.
All right, thank you very much, Jean, and thank you, Shefali. That wraps up our questions that we have right now. Anyone joining us this evening, if you do have additional questions, you do see our contact information on this slide. Please feel free to answer those, share your questions in the email, or to give us a call at that phone number listed. We can help you along this way. That is what we are here to do. Thank you so much for joining us, and you all have a great evening.